So it's a beautiful day out on the Waitemata Harbour at the Hauraki Golf for this opening day. We have her in the commentary position, Lady Shirley. Well, we like to call her Dame Shirley, but we are really ready to go for this one because it promises to be one of the most enthralling series that you can look forward to because, quite simply, no one knows what to expect.
Right at the bottom of the wind range here, Shirley. Right down. Look, we've seen some pretty exciting bottom of the wind range races, though. Never before, I proclaim, never in the history of sailing have we called a light air race really exciting. But when the race hinges on getting on your foils or not getting on your foils, huge comebacks, huge passes, it actually can be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to watch. We just don't know what's going to happen. And I mean, I think there'll be a tactic here of trying to get your opponent off the foils. We saw how convincing that was in some of the previous light wind races.
Huge crowds on the Vardic. They are excited. They are ready to go for the race one of the Prada Cup 2021. Who do you want? Will it be Luna, Rossa, Prada, Pirelli, or will it be INEOS Team UK yet to suffer defeat in the Prada Cup series? And that at the moment is a telling story. We do know that the race has been pushed back. The race start has been pushed back because we're at the lower end of the wind limit to 4:19 local time. That's a little under 8 minutes or so from now. And I know you've been listening to onboards, Shirley, about how they might come into the pre-start area. What's the talk coming off the boats?
Well, we saw a rope coming off the front of INEOS there. They have been practicing towing in, so just getting as much speed and momentum as they can until they have to enter the box. I mean, it's a technique, Kenny.
It's certainly a technique. It's a technique that they've had to do quite often in this really light air, but it also really shows that the timing becomes more difficult because they're really fearful of doing maneuvers right now, Stephen. And because attack and a jibe is the most vulnerable spot where you splash down, you get off the foils, and you're totally out of sorts. So this is a scary, I can tell you right now, on board these crews, this is a scary moment with this light air. So
the question I have is just going around in my head right now, because we've been building up to these so-called elbows out pre-starts. So for both the likes of Spittle and Bruni against Ainsley and Scott, how does this change the dynamic coming into the box and what they had actually planned for maybe a bit more wind?
I think you can't be too aggressive. It's high risk, isn't it? Be too aggressive and then, you know, you fall off the foils and then you're stuck. But saying that, Stephen, it's a tool that you can use.
So we are looking at INEOS Team UK. Look, let's be blunt. Everybody, all the talk around the Vardic, all the talk is this team comes in as slight favourites because of their performance. Let's go onto the water. We've got a new voice on the water today in Chase Boat 1. That's the American Magic testing manager, Anderson Reggio. So we've got a little bit of time, Anderson. What you see the conditions like and how you're feeling about this race and how it might pan out.
Yeah, on the water here right now, you get a little bit better pressure down towards the bottom of the track. I'm actually looking at Emirates Team New Zealand well off the left-hand side of the racetrack right now, showing a masterclass of light air tacking. But on the racetrack itself, it's pretty light and patchy as you work further up the track, and it's going to be all about staying on the foils for these guys today. It has to be in this light air that we're probably going to see here for this first race.
Anderson, you've been following these boats around for a long time, and do you see any bits and pieces that we may not have seen yet? Anything on these boats that stand out that are new, that have come on board over the last 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, Luna Rossa specifically has done a lot of work on their aero. They've always looked the sleekest from an aero standpoint. And now you can actually see that they've got some new fairings that help to do a great job of hiding the crew, both on the inboard and the outboard side of those crew pods there. They're almost starting to look more and more like Emirates Team New Zealand with how well their crew's hidden in there.
All right, looking forward to your insight as this race finally gets under and unfolds. Anderson, let's go back up to Heli 2 and just get a feeling for what the wind is doing, the currents. Nathan, what gives?
Hi, Stephen. It's not a whole lot has changed right now. It still looks pretty light. As Anderson was saying, it's definitely windier at the bottom of the race course, closer to the land. That sea breeze is sucking back into the land. But as we look up the course outside of the spectator area, not a whole lot of wind further upwind. And You know, just as I'm here, I'm looking out to the west coast because we know what happens at this time of year with the two sea breezes fighting. Out on the west coast, the southwest has come in through the heads. It's heading towards the airport, and that's probably slowing this progression of the sea breeze down. So it's really going to be a waiting game at the moment. I can see INEOS foiling in the center of the race course right now as we speak, looking like they've got plenty of breeze. Prada look like they're about to top onto the foils themselves now as well. So maybe it's starting to come in a little bit, but it's still very marginal right now.
Nathan Outteridge from Artemis, the skipper, up in Heli 2 today, giving us a
the race committee.
simple...
The wind sampling period is complete, and this race is live.
Bird's eye view, and there we go. It's good to go. Race committee say we have enough wind, so okay. Settle down. Get yourself comfortable, because this is where it all starts now. I just got goosebumps. I don't know what it was, but here we go. We're getting ready for race 1 of the Prada Cup Final 2021. There is no turning back. And I've got to say, right here, Shirley, how important is it to win race 1?
It would be good to make a statement. I mean, they're both, it matters a lot, Stephen, and they're both very much up for this. It's amazing, isn't it? We now have just over 8 knots on the committee boat. So that 2-knot difference, they've gone from towing into the starting box to doing 30-something knots.
I'm ready. Well, I guess it's our job to talk about it, but I'm ready for the world to be able to stop talking about the pundits, the experts around the world. It's like they said, there's now how many million new fans and experts in foiling monohulls. We can stop talking about it soon, and we can start actually enjoying the racing.
This is Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. They will have port entry, because INEOS Team UK chose as the highest finisher after the round robin because they got direct entry. They would take starboard entry. So at 2 minutes and 10 seconds, Luna Rossa can come into the pre-start area.
We still have a boat that may be slightly suspect in light air in INEOS, but we know they made huge improvements. But I would say if there's a factor here right now, it's still the possible light air advantage of the Italians.
3 seconds and counting, and look at this. It's probably pre-programmed, but it looks like Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli just slightly late coming in, but that doesn't matter. I'm sure they want to wait as long as they can to come in, particularly one might suggest in the light air.
Well, this is actually pretty darn good timing by both boats right now, and what could be catastrophic, surely. I mean, you don't want to make the big mistake right now, right? That's really what they're looking for.
At all costs, stay up on the foils.
We will be on our dirt.
Let's go on board the boats. Let's see how they're thinking ahead of race start 1 in the Prada Cup.
Okay, slowly down, guys. EMG downwind, okay?
See, copy. Ready to trim. Trim, boys. Trim.
Yeah, just going to try and get up here. That's all that matters. Copy.
INEOS has come off the foils, are very close to it. They're so close to this. That's got to be heart in the throat moment for Ben Ainsley right now.
Pretty light, full power. We can't get up here. We're going to attack.
Yeah, copy that.
Okay.
He doesn't have a piece.
Does Bill hunt him here and try to make him even in a tougher spot, or does he just take the advantage, Shirley? Just go for it.
Don't worry about
It
him.
might be a little early back to the starting line, given their position in the starting box.
Fall in the mats, boys. Just looking for a good acceleration here, guys.
Oh, INEOS is so vulnerable here. For Luna Rossa, it's all about time and distance.
They're falling off right now as well. They're falling, so this is really a big lull in the starting area right now. Big advantage to these guys, though. The Italians, they look like they're closest to getting the boat going.
Less than 20 seconds to start. INEOS, Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli back up on the foils. INEOS to the right of your screen, off the foils.
Just on the line, yeah. Just right on time. You've got to be careful.
Copy.
Okay,
bit of main.
And we're away. Prada Cup Finals 2021. And the battle for the right to challenge Emirates Team New Zealand for the old mug starts now. And it's Luna Rossa in command from the go.
Pressure in front.
They shoot the British boat over the line early. That's obviously off to the side. They're just going to loop around this mark and go between the starting marks and try to get their boat going. Surely. This isn't exactly the start that the sailing world anticipated, unfortunately.
We were expecting a street fight, Kenny. We didn't quite get that. I mean, this was always going to be the risk in this amount of wind pressure. Also, Prada always seems to be a little bit slippier. If it does touch down, it seems to be able to kiss and go. Whereas we look at INEOS, quite often they're velcroed to the ocean.
Slow turn up here.
No problem.
You could almost sense, just listening to Jimmy Spittle and Francesco Brini, they're tiptoeing their way up the course at the moment, just not wanting to push it too hard.
They're just getting going here on INEOS. They're getting closer and closer by the second. They had to get up through that starting box, first of all, and now they're doing everything. They're like pumping, rocking, and ooching the boat to try to get the thing to pop out of the water. Really close, 18 knots. Surely that's close. Yep, here we go.
You need to get 20 knots of boat speed to be able to just lift her up.
And there's the encouraging sign for fans of INEOS Team UK, up and falling. So for them, now it is race on.
Your pitch lane.
Yep.
Let's go back to the start, shall we? They picked up a penalty for crossing the line early.
Yeah, they're just over the imaginary line. If you extend that green line all the way up to the top of your screen, that's the starting line. So technically they were over the line early, but it's really no harm, no foul. They really had nothing to do with what they're influencing them in the starting line maneuvers. They just needed to get on the foils at all costs. And hey, there's a good sign. There's a good sign. They actually got a tack in, stayed on the foils, and off they go.
Just picked up a boundary penalty. It was INEOS Team UK, but as we see it right now with Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli high up to the top, left top of your screen, it's not going to matter too much.
Take your mind back to the other lightweight races that we have watched. You know, one boat has often been quite far ahead, fallen off the foils, and it's been a massive restart. This race is only just beginning.
Should we just keep a little fast again?
Yes.
Nathan, as we look up to the top of the race course, the left side of our screen, is it still lighter towards the top, or is it starting to even out a bit?
Yeah, Kenny, it looks like from here the breeze is starting to come in from the top of the course, particularly on the left-hand side. You see Luna Rossa didn't really want to go at all over to that right-hand side of the course. They're protecting the left-hand side of the course. They've made some really nice tacks, and I think this breeze is slowly coming in. By no means is it going to be windy enough to assume that they're going to foil the whole way around, but it is starting to build slowly.
If you are joining us right now for the opening race of the Prada Cup Finals 2021, this is a 6-leg race. That we could call that 3 laps. Up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Let's go on to the water with chase by one Anderson ratio. Can you believe what you saw at the start, Anderson?
Well, it was a bit different than the dogfight we were all expecting, but watching Luna Rossa come off and sort of glide while INEOS got stuck in the water there really shows the advantage of that hull shape. And they just have been putting on a masterclass out there with these lead air tacks, lifting the boat really high, giving themselves lots of margin, and keeping her flying.
You actually see a little bit of pressure out on the water right now, Anderson. Maybe a few even tiny little white caps that we haven't seen before. Do you agree with Nathan? A little more breeze starting to pump in from the top of the course?
Yeah, definitely a little bit more breeze pumping in from the left-hand side. Looks a little bit like a righty comparatively to what INEOS just tacked in over here.
2 boats coming up there. 55 then, 25s.
You listen on board, it's still calm, cool, and collected. You know, there's no panic, and exactly what you said, Shirley. This is a one and done, one moment of the Italians coming off their foils, and this race becomes brand new. So this is these are definitely nervous moments for both boats at this stage, and especially their fans.
Why would you be excited about watching AC-75s with a shot like that? Floiling 75 footers, it is magnificent. You talk about brand new. That's what Max Serena has called Luna Rossa with all the updates. It's a brand new boat.
Copy that.
Coming into the top gate for the first time, and it will be Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli with a 560-odd metre lead on INEOS Team UK. It was a lot further away than that, but moments ago. So, as Shirley quite rightly said, it's not over as we get the first rounding of the mark, and it's Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. The first heads downward in race 1.
Boys, come down. Look in the auto. 45.
Interestingly, flying higher than we've seen in the past around that mark, whether that's a slight little misstep or actually on purpose. It'll be interesting to see as this plays out if this is a new game plan for these guys.
He's a righty, but more pressure this way.
Hold down.
Okay, got it.
Turning.
Push me on. 21s, by will. 21s. Okay, here we go.
Boy, they're just staying out of the water, aren't they? 21. You said 20. I think you're exactly right. 20 knots is kind of that make or break moment, whether it splashes down or not. 21s, that is right on the edge.
And then we'll look to push back
INEOS Team UK now approaching the top gate for the first time. You can understand that that margin has blown out quite simply because of getting off the foils at the start, but they will finally make the top gate, head towards the right-hand mark and round it and start the chase. Remember, 6 legs. We haven't completed the 1 yet. This is halfway through the first leg. And around go INEOS Team UK. 1 minute and 20 behind Luna Rossa.
It's a little band just here where we are. So yeah, happy.
Communication on board INEOS.
As soon as you think we're losing it, happy inside here.
We're on the same jibe.
He's got
Bring down pressure, yeah.
Well, Stephen, Nathan was absolutely right. At the bottom of the course now, we have consistently 10 to 11 knots. So, you know, a big jump, a much safer wind speed than we saw right at the beginning.
For sure, the Italians right now are just thinking, come on, breeze, right? Just like 1 or 2 more knots of wind speed, and consistently staying on the foils becomes a much higher percentage of time, much easier. And that's all they want right now. They don't care if they gain another meter. They just want to stay on the foils.
My wheel. Game board. Get my pitch. 27s. Building here. More breeze coming in 10. Yeah, should build here.
You can hear the voice of Ben Ainsley and Giles Scott talking about more breeze coming. Let's go over to Heli 2, see if they're right about seeing more breeze. Nathan Alleridge, can you see more breeze?
Yeah, definitely from up here looks like it's starting to fill in and be a bit more stable across the course. The other thing that I can see from the helicopter, which I haven't been able to see until today, is the difference in these sails. Luna Rossa definitely look like they're running a deeper sail setup. You can really see that when you're above them and looking down, whereas INEOS seem to be running a flatter, bit more static setup, and I think that's giving Luna Rossa an advantage of being able to generate a bit more power in this lighter wind.
Little soft patch for 5.
Yeah, no problem.
How's pressure look to this boundary? Yeah, it looks alright. It's just building again. Yeah, copy.
1 and in left, and then we decide if to go early.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or to
Pressure
go
looks
to.
increasing on this side.
Really good pressure. Francisco Bruni, 1 and in left, Shirley. These are code phrases for those of you who are joining this early. Joining us late, I mean, in the piece following the America's Cup and the Prada Cup, all kinds of little phrases they have out here and how they describe briefly, quickly their maneuvers.
Also, this team has a twin helmsman set up. On one side, Francesco Bruni, and on the starboard side, it is Jimmy Spittle, sharing that role and sharing flying the boat. When they're not steering, they're flying.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, now about to complete the first leg of second leg of 6 in this opening race of the Prada Cup, and around the left-hand mark they go at the bottom gate for the first time. So 2 legs done, 4 to go for Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli.
Very strong on the left. We are on a lefty.
Yeah, we're gonna go early here, guys.
Really in control on the boat. I mean, it's easier. We've said this a million times. It's easier to be in control when you're not under pressure, and clearly they're not under pressure right now. They're just not trying to make the big mistake.
Enter.
Boundary penalty being given to INEOS.
Cruel.
Wow.
A cruel boundary penalty. Well, the fact is that it's done by machine. It is not done. It is not done by man here. So there is no speculation there. They actually came off their foils there briefly for a second as well.
Starting to look better and the more even across the course
Onto the
now.
water
The
with
right's not as
Anderson
bad
Reggio,
anymore.
American Magic's testing manager. What are you seeing on the water right now, Anderson?
That's it. Yeah,
It was pretty interesting watching INEOS try to throw that jibe in when they were close to the boundary there. They had a pretty bad jibe and fell off their foils. Took them quite a long time to get rolling again. It's definitely pretty puffy and shifty now, and breeze looks to be building up the track.
One wheel. Okay, going forward.
INEOS Team UK about to complete the second leg of this opening race in the Prada Cup Finals 2021. The lead is blown out somewhat, falling off the fours is not going to help. It was at 1 minute and 20 seconds at the top mark, and now it's going to be a little bit more, but around they will go. 1 minute and 30 seconds in deficit to Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Crazy old day.
Okay, so surely small sample size here, but you know, we talked a little bit about this race and the light air. Can we kind of officially say now that maybe at the bottom end of the range, INEOS is a bit vulnerable? I mean, no question, this is not pre-Christmas. This is not the Christmas event of which they just struggled, period. But are we leaning towards maybe if it was a super light air day, we can say Prada has the advantage?
I mean, we were expecting gains. This boat has been in the shed for much of the last 3 weeks, having upgrades. I think we were expecting some light wind gains, and I'm not sure we're saying that. But on the other hand, Luna Rossa's always looked good in these conditions, and they've made upgrades. And when you look at Luna Rossa, she just seems a little bit slippier. She seems to be able to escape those real trouble moments.
So, Anderson, as we look at the foils on these boats for a moment, we talked a lot with you about size of foils. Can you confirm that the size of the foils on both of these boats are pretty darn similar? And on the large side, the fleet of 4 on the larger side within the fleet.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Kenny. These two boats here have foils that are pretty similar in size and comparatively to what we had with American Magic and what you see now on Emirates Team New Zealand. These are much, much larger by the range of 20+%.
20+% amongst friends. So this shows how interesting a brand new class is. That's a huge variation, 20% in size. As these boats evolve over generations of boats, that'll get tinier and tinier until like 1 or 2% becomes a big deal. Not 20. 20 is massive.
1,105 meters and counting, the distance between Luna Rossa and Rita Britannia. In this opening race, they're on leg number 3, upwind. INEOS has already suffered a couple of penalties. The start not perfect. It's not what we were expecting, because we were amped and ready for, as we've kept saying all along, elbows out, 2 helms or 3 helms and going at it. But Mother Nature decided differently.
It will come. I have watched Ben Ainsley in lots of situations, and so often he starts poorly. You know, there's often an OCS or something happens in the first race, and then he gets going, and more than often he wins. So expect elbows out as this carries on.
Yes, it's the best of 13 race series. The first to win 7 races earns the right to challenge Emirates Team New Zealand in the match. That's a long way off. We've got a lot of race days over the next 10.
For the run.
Yep.
Easy. Nice pressure here.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli heading towards the top gate for the second time. The advantage has blown out. That's what you're going to get, and we've talked a lot about making one mistake, having things work against you, such as the speed of these boats.
1, heading away.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli around the top gate for the second time. The one thing that we've talked about a lot and have noticed, and it's carrying on, the smoothness of them doing their work, but also the communication on board.
There is no question about it that they have had a breakthrough on their communication, but we say again, I repeat, they have not been really under pressure yet. Cheryl, in those 4 races against American Magic, I wouldn't say they were ever really in some serious heat. So we still haven't quite seen this new combination, this new communication get pushed hard yet.
No, I agree, and I have some doubts about, you know, there isn't one person in charge. To me, call me old-fashioned, but I haven't really seen that working to full effect. But for sure, the last time that they raced INEOS, when they got beaten, there was 9 crosses. That was a wake-up call, and in many ways, they went back to baseline. You know, how are we going to do this? The way we're doing it isn't really working. And we have seen Prada get better and better since then.
One thing that's interesting here is that it seems that INEOS really is turning the boat more aggressively, tacking and jiving. We actually heard Spithill at one stage say, nice slow turn here, boys. They spend more time with both boards in the water, and they've really slowed down their turns in order to try to keep it up in the foils and just take away any chance of falling in.
INEOS Team UK approaching the top gate. Let's listen in on the comms, because it is fascinating as they go around, because they've got a lot of work to do. But remember, it's just race number 1.
Breeze is back to mean here.
Okay, 2, 1.
Clear away.
Coming away.
Okay, easy.
INEOS surrounding the top gate for the second time. 1 minute and 54 seconds behind Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. It's a long way to go, but as you can tell just by the calmness in the voice of Sir Ben Ainsley, it is what it is. Keep doing your job, and away we go.
Remember, this is the GOAT, right? This is the greatest of all time in Olympic world. And like Shirley was saying, actually, there were a few members of our British community here in TV land talking about he always starts slow. He no matter what, right? It's really incredible. You guys were laughing about it. I had never heard these stories before, but he just always starts slow.
There's always some drama early on, and then he gets it on. He gets his roll on after that.
But let's be blunt. You don't want to have a slow start in the America's Cup or the Prada Cup, do you? You want to be on point from the get-go.
You call this jive, eh?
Yeah. I think trust the software.
Yeah, copy. Great pressure here.
Just put 1 second more. Just one.
It's actually square gate at the moment.
Stephen, there's been much in the sailing press this week about this head-to-head beauty versus the beast, which is a little bit harsh, but you have to say, I mean, look at Luna Rossa now in light winds.
Come on, Shirley, that's a beautiful boat.
Everything just looks right.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli at the bottom gate to complete the 4th leg. 2 to go. And this opening race of the Prada Cup final says, remember, you win 7, you go to the big show, the match against Emirates Team New Zealand.
Chip lead all the way up, obviously.
Direction 30.
8 knots of breeze, 38 knots of wind speed, or boat speed, sorry. It's just still, it's unheard of. It's incredible. It's just incredible. Now, as I was saying, they do slow turns. They rip through one and make me look bad. I think they did. Nathan, they just think there's a little more breeze out there right now, right? It just seems like a little more comfortable for these guys.
Yeah, Ken, it's definitely, the breeze is definitely building, and you know, if you look further up the course, there's a cloud line that's starting to lift, and that's allowing the air to start to push in. So this sea breeze is slowly building. On that last lap, it was a bit shifty, and there was a few shifts, and Luna Rossa were in phase, and INEOS looked to be a little bit out of phase, but for sure, breeze is building, and to comment on the turning, it's really obvious when you're sitting above the boats, the turn rate, and it seems like Luna Rossa were turning it a little bit smoother in the lighter winds, but that tack they just did before, they whipped it quite quickly, because I guess there's a bit more breeze. They can transfer the load between the foils so much easier, but man, they're sailing away with this one, aren't they? They're not slowing down at all.
Can we extend all the way to boundary out of this left turn?
Yep.
INEOS Team UK, that's the first time I think I've seen them crack 40 knots, but that's a good sign, because Rita looks beautiful when she is flying, and it's such a solid looking boat. As INEOS Team UK, they finally get to the bottom gate for the last time, basically. Will be the finish, and they're 1 minute 56 seconds, 57 seconds in the deficit.
They're thinking about the next race right now, right? I mean, that's this race. They're pretty comfortable in their thinking, and it's not defeatist. They're comfortable in thinking, okay, this one didn't go our way. Let's start thinking about race 2. The good news is, talk about elbows out and a little bit of a slugfest. Breeze coming on, we may not see that flukiness, that those touchdown problems in the pre-start, and have ourselves a closer race. So for those of you who are up early in Europe or staying up late in the States or wherever you are in the world, stay tuned. There's another one coming, and the next one hopefully proves to be a little bit better.
Stop. Pressure coming in 5.
On average, always more pressure left. That's, but still not enough of a reason to do one extra attack, I think.
Yeah,
straight one and in left.
I think we're going to have to check that heart rate meter, Shirley, because he's talking awful cool and calm and collected for somebody whose heart was about to explode on that meter.
Beautiful shots coming from our second helicopter where Nathan Aldridge is parked. Makes a pretty sight, doesn't it? What do you like about what you're seeing from Luna Rossa at the moment?
Well, Luna Rossa, to me, they just look really polished. That start, I had to keep going back to the start. That's what set up the race. They had the luxury of only having to do one maneuver in the pre-start, but it was a very good maneuver. And from there, they've just been keeping it simple, sailing smoothly, and very impressive. I must say, very impressive Luna Rossa today.
Both of them on their J1s, which is their biggest jibs, their light air jibs, and we'll probably notice pretty quickly whether the breeze is coming up in between races, because they'll shift down right away. They'll get rid of these right away and start looking smaller and smaller as quick as they can. Less drag, more efficient, higher boat speeds.
Onto the water quickly with Anderson Reggio. Anderson, before we get to the top mark for the last time for Luna Rossa, have we seen a vulnerability in INEOS in these wins now? Can we confirm that? We're having that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's the name of the game. You fall off the foils and the loss becomes huge really, really quickly. And they had a couple mistakes early in the race. And then it meant that they sort of had to try to sail their own race and ended up a bit out of phase relative to some of the shifts. And it just sent them back further here.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli approaching the top gate for the last time in this opening encounter of the Prada Cup finals in 2021. And around she goes and heads home. You got to say, it is an awfully quiet boat.
I've lost him.
It's just the same old thing, right? Every time we just hold out to listen to their conversation. Of course, they don't say anything. It's just it's uncanny how that happens.
3, 2, 1. Just a little lighter out of this.
Nothing clear and obvious, though, is there, Shirley? And even Anderson out on the water. Nothing real obvious on these boats that's a big game changer that they've changed in the last couple weeks. So these bits and pieces, like everybody, like all of us have thought about, these bits and pieces are small now. They're small. We're not seeing big changes to the boats.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Kenny. The steps here are small, and it's all about just being more consistent. You can see Luna Rossa now more consistent than I've ever seen them in their maneuvers.
That's okay. Set up, let's cross on the box there. Ready? 2, 1, 4 down.
We're in marginal gains territory, Stephen. And I would say with Luna Rossa that in the past, some of the maneuvers have been a bit loose. But, you know, here you can't do anything out in the water without everybody seeing it. And we have seen them practicing maneuvers, you know, over and over again, and that, especially the harder ones. And today, I think we're seeing the fruit of that.
Pressure will build out of this one.
Surely sometimes practice makes perfect, but Mother Nature doesn't play that game. Mother Nature will decide whether you can make those practice moves pay off. As INEOS Team UK coming to the top gate for the final time.
2, 1.
They will take this one on the chin and round the top gate. On the left-hand mark, 2 minutes and 3 seconds behind Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli.
Okay, to the 5.
The incredible thing, though, Shirley, is these guys don't look bad right now, right? I mean, as we go along through this process, through the Prada Challenger finals and into the Cup, they just get better and better and better. Whereas, we would have seen major issues in the past with a boat behind this far. But really, they made two little mistakes and it was game over.
We have a lot less to say than we did a month ago. And, we have to remember these boats are brand new. And not only are they improving the hardware constantly, but also the way that they're sailing it. We're all learning here.
Starting to get the pressure.
Can you imagine the confidence rising with Jimmy Spittle right now?
Yeah, but he's used to it. Honestly, they know how long a series it is. None of these guys are rookies. They're all seasoned vets. I mean, I honestly think this is one race at a time category. It's really nothing other than that, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. And they know that essentially that race was won and lost in the pre-start. One mistake by INEOS and it was game over.
You just heard Jimmy Spittle say, yeah, this is good, mate. Yes, it is good for Luna Rossa in the opening encounter of the Prada Cup Final 2021. Luna Rossa takes first blood against INEOS Team UK.
First time INEOS has lost a race this year.
A little further this way. Okay, board's going down.
Well, let's make the most of that in the sense that, we talk this game of the America's Cup being a psychological game. They have taken now a good right hook to the jaw, INEOS Team UK, and we know Jimmy likes to box, so he'll be happy with that one.
He was down, you came up too much. Came up too much.
Never in doubt, mate.
18 knots boat speed for 30 seconds.
So they're talking about in their pre-start when they were dangerously close to, or they were down for a second. They just happen to have a little better angle, right? That 90-degree wind angle that pops the boats out of the water. That happened to be their angle back to the start, whereas INEOS caught themselves above the line and had really struggled to get it going.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we heard Keiko say there, we were down at 18 knots for 30 seconds. Anything below 20, it's the danger zone.
But just to reiterate, yes, two mistakes have hurt INEOS Team UK, but you look at the way they're sailing this boat, get it right, this is not going to be a 2-minute plus affair anymore. It's going to be much, much tighter.
This next race is a real race. You can see the little white caps, the sheep in the paddock or whatever they call it down here.
White caps.
I'm trying to be Kiwi. I'm trying to be a Kiwi for a second.
INEOS Team UK completes the opening stoush of the Prada Cup Final Series on the waters of the Waimata Harbour. And it's a 1 minute and 52-second win to Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. But guess what? There's another one still to come. But psychological tick in the box number one goes to Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli.
Just reaching a little bit here. Copy. It's course. Your wheel. My wheel.
Confirmation of the opening race in the Prada Cup Finalist Series 2021. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli with the win by 1 minute and 52 seconds.
So this race was kind of over before it started, unfortunately.
So it's on. Race 2 on port entry. INEOS Team UK on starboard. Winners of race 1, Rossa, Prada, Pirelli, and the wind is up. And guess who's forwarding right now? INEOS Team UK, and surely they will be loving that feeling right now.
Stephen, it is getting windier and windier, between 14 and 16 knots on the race box. They are going to be loving this.
This is real sea breeze. You know, this is that real nice, dense sea breeze that's come in off the ocean. Should be really not very shifty. It should be just like a flat-out boat speed contest. Hopefully we see a little hand-to-hand combat.
Let's get onto the water ahead of this race with Anderson Reggio. Anderson, what he can see, and what feeling do you have about this race?
Oh, I'm looking up the track right now. There's a great build in the pressure upwind of us here. I'd almost be a little concerned I might have the wrong jib on if I was INEOS. Looks like they've stepped down on the size of jib, but not as far as Rossa. Rossa with a smaller head sole, which might make a bit of a difference as this pressure increases.
Let's head up into the sky and in heli to Nathan Alleridge. Nathan, what are you seeing and what are you looking forward to?
This is the race committee. The
Well, I can see
period is complete and this race is live.
There you go. I can see that the breeze is definitely windier. I can see white caps all over the race course. It looks like it's going to be a speed race to me. I don't see many shifts from up here. It looks pretty uniform. And I'm interested to know if, like what Anderson was saying with the jib sizes, Rossa from up here look like they've got a much smaller jib on. So once again, they could be in better range with their setup. But I honestly think there's going to be some fireworks in this pre-start. There's enough wind to foil without any issues, boats not needing to be towed up at all. And I think we're going to have a ripper of a start here.
So from a current standpoint, Nathan, you were talking about it before the racing started. Is there any real advantage to one side of the race course? I know it's flowing in a little harder on the right side. You think that really makes a difference right now?
I honestly think, Kenny, right now the current's pretty uniform across the course. I can't pick any differences up here at all. Before, when it was lighter winds, the current made more of a difference, but now we've got 15 knots of breeze. I think these guys won't be thinking about current. It'll be more about just going boundary to boundary, like what Bruni said in his interview.
Thanks, Nathan. Nathan Alleridge, high in the sky and heli 2 this afternoon, and Anderson Reggio on the water. Shirley Robinson, I know we talked about excitement and tension in race 1. I just think it's ramped up a little bit more because the conditions have changed.
Out there and in the commentary box, I mean, we are getting excited. This is the perfect conditions for racing. It's all on.
Big difference in jibs, though. Everybody's picked it up. It is a big size difference in jibs.
INEOS Team UK have port entry allowed in at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. It's gone past that, but they are rocketing into the pre-start. And now we might see what we've been waiting for. Elbows out. You can see Rossa, Prada, Pirelli now in on the 2-minute mark, and in they come. So wait, watch, and listen, because this is going to get good.
Geometry, time and distance, or hand-to-hand battle. That's you pick it up pretty early on in the sequence. It depends on where all these guys are going to go. Do they throw some different looks that we haven't even seen yet?
Following. Keep coming up, boys.
Time away here.
Going board up in 2. 1, board up.
There's that high box move to the right, Shirley. It's going to be a jibe, most likely, by INEOS next time. They're trying to do a real kind of big loop, a big time and distance. It's going to be up to Prada to decide whether they go back before them or after them.
Okay, he turns. He's staying high. He's going to get on our hammer here. Okay. 14 boundary, killing 40. He now turns down, Ben.
Okay, board down.
Crossing. Eyeball him behind the main.
Okay, he's early. Stand by jibe.
He's early. That means they'll probably go behind. That means they're going to go behind and push.
Okay, 2 board turn up.
Killing 20.
Yeah. 2,
Lay
1,
line
turning
is
up.
10. Killing 15. Killing 7 to the pin.
Okay, up hard.
There's a gap off there. They're trying to start well together, hoping that INEOS is early.
Yeah, he's going slow.
Clear.
My pitch, your pitch. He looks to push, Ben.
Okay, copy. Trimming up. Big trim up. Big trim up.
Spithill says he's going for the hook, but again, I think that's a play. I saw no way he's going to get a hook from this position, Shirley. They're looking to gap off.
We've seen how powerful it is to stop the wind with the gap. And you get to the boundary really in a great spot.
Charge coming up.
Charge.
Okay, it's charging battery.
That's good. Now lower.
Coming down. Down and touch.
5,
Is this
4,
enough of a gap?
3, 2, big
All the way, all the way. Go,
Race
go, go.
2 is a go in the Prada Cup Final Series 2021. What a start.
A little more juice in that pre-start, surely, but this is the exciting time for me. That first cross, the boundary coming up. Who gets that first cross when they do tack over onto port next
Almost we
time?
have to bail out here pretty soon.
Prada falling down into INEOS. We just heard Francesco Bruni saying, we can't live here for long, we're going to have to get out.
3, 2, 1. Stand by to the left here.
Copy. 2, order 1.
Nice.
Nice, going. Building speed.
Yep. Good pressure here.
My right, my
I
trap.
think we get all the way to boundary, Ben.
Yeah, copy.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice
Charles
little
Scott
lefty
says
there,
let's go
push
all the way
into
to
it.
boundary. We're going to have our first good split here, Nathan.
Okay, my
Keep the
trap.
Any
boundary.
side of the race course that you like more than the other?
Set up, let's.
If I had to put any money on it, I'd say the left-hand side of the course looks a little bit windier than the right-hand side of the course. So this is going to be really interesting when they come back together. That was such a tight start. And it's all about this. INEOS, I think, have better pressure, but Luna Rossa are going to come back on starboard tack.
38, which is much left, I think.
Watch these boat speeds for a minute. This is real boat speed weather. You know, not that shifty tactician weather that we see in some of the race courses around here. This is flat out boat speed weather right now, and Italians do not look slow.
In general. Stand by in 3, 2, 1, 4 down, 30.
Previous racing, we've seen the Italian perhaps have a little bit of extra height on the upwind. I was surprised that they couldn't live in that starting position a little longer.
I think we too much for a leave out.
Copy.
Okay, my wheel.
Yep.
Coming down.
Don't go too early. Don't go too early.
Coming down.
He's going behind us. He's going behind us.
You're set.
Here we go.
Cross to the Italians. Starboard tack advantage came across.
Copy.
Giles Scott grabs the wheel on those dips. Did you hear that? That was interesting.
Okay, boundary 15 away.
Okay, set up, let's.
Cruise just a little more animated on board both INEOS and Luna Rossa in the second race of the Prada Cup.
My wheel.
And there's nothing in the second race. 6 legs were on the first upwind on the stadium course, and you can see the magnificent spectator fleet framed in front of Rangitoto.
Go for the cross.
Okay, we're looking for...
I'm going to go click over, kick on the boundary.
Copy.
On the line.
Yeah.
That feels good.
This is so good. Look at these shots. I mean, this is welcome to the modern world of sailboat racing. Just incredible. I just can't get used to it.
Just let's go down onto the water with Anderson ratio. Advantage where? Who holds advantage at the moment?
Crossing.
Yeah, no problem. My right, my trap.
It looks from this vantage like we might be looking at Luna Rossa just barely across. You heard Jimmy talk about wanting to go just a hair over lane line just to put a little bit in the bank on that one. But it looks like it'll be them across.
Yes, yes.
I mean, it looks like the Italians are just a click faster, Stephen.
Fine.
I'll start
Luna
it for
Rossa,
you.
Prada, Pirelli.
3,
Let's just say a click ahead of INEOS Team UK, rounding the left-hand mark at the top gate for the first time. You remember back in race number 1, the advantage was 1 minute and 20 seconds. Well, think again, different ball game, folks, in race number 2. That advantage is now just 11 seconds.
2,
My pitch.
4 down.
Jive immediately looking for a bit of a split. Again, on a race course like this, it's probably okay to be a little less patient because you're not waiting for that big wind shift.
No, I agree. And remember, Nathan, he liked the right-hand side of the screen that we're looking at. He liked that. He thought there was more pressure over there. And maybe Giles Scott has seen exactly that.
Nathan, impressive leg by Prada, though. Really not a perfect start by them. They were in a vulnerable spot, and I think they just put the hammer down.
we are good.
Yeah, it was a very impressive first up win by Luna Rossa there. They started in probably too close to Lewin. You know, they didn't hold all the way to boundary, so they had to bail early. And I also think they went the wrong way in terms of pressure. I think the pressure is better on this left-hand side, further away from Rangitoto. It's pushing in quite hard. So for them to take the lead going the wrong way is very impressive. And I think INEOS have got a lot on here to try and get back into this one and take the lead back.
Very, very steady pressure everywhere at the moment.
I think more to come on this side.
Yeah, over on this boundary, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we'll go all the way to it.
Brilliant view on our virtual eye. Doesn't it make a magnificent stadium feel in this second race of the Prada Cup final series? And Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli doing the job right now. This is the first downwind leg of this second race, and their lead is comfortable at the moment.
Well, like the boats and what the boats can do, this virtual eye has changed our sport. You know, from a sport, surely, that was so hard to understand because of just this expansion of water and a mark kind of on the horizon to kind of a playing field that is easy to understand even for people who aren't sailors.
Great to look at the speeds going downwind, and there's not a heck of a lot between them. Took a little while for INEOS to get up and around that 40, 45 knot mark. And we're talking around 52 miles an hour, surely.
But Prada have extended. I mean, look at how many meters. We're now nearly at 300 meters. They've done well on this run. Partly, I think, protecting that left-hand side of the course that that Nathan favoured so much.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, bottom gate for the first time. They'll take what we can see here is that we'll call it the left-hand mark, and they'll go around. They will fly around. And the one thing we have noticed as this regatta has progressed, not just this one, but the whole regatta, the smoothness with which they are going around and doing their moves. It was 11 seconds at the top mark. It's going to come out just a little bit, but this is well far from over. Both boards down for INEOS Team UK. 17 seconds now.
Your pitch or mine? Mine.
A much tighter rounding.
Yeah, that was an odd rounding by Luna Rossa, wasn't it? It just looked a little lazy going around there. I mean that with all due respect. Nothing is lazy on these boats, but it just looked a little wide, a little odd. Huh.
So both boats split on this stadium course. Let's listen in and see what's going on board.
Okay, crossing. Ready. 2, 1, board down. Okay, got. Turning. I will. 28. Okay, main up. Building here. 58. 32's coming up. Nice. Working up a couple.
Leads come back in a little bit here, over 100 meters to gain back. They still like the left. Nathan likes the left. Everybody likes the left. Anderson, INEOS has not obviously lost a race up until today this year. Are you surprised at what you see right now, or is this kind of making sense to you?
I mean, there's a little bit that's surprising to see them. They're exiting a fair number of their maneuvers, especially their tacks with a little bit of leeward heel, and their rate of acceleration out of their tacks definitely seems to be a fair bit less than what you're seeing on Luna Rossa. Luna Rossa's just made a massive jump in how clean that they're sailing around the track.
Anderson, why would that be? What kind of things do you think they've changed?
I think it's just more than anything else, Shirley, just practice, practice, practice. I mean, the more consistently you can just execute everything, the more you operate well as a nice, well-oiled machine. And this team seems to be functioning really well.
Let's go on board Luna Rossa, because the one thing we try and get is a bit of chatter, but the last time we went on board, they were pretty comfortable, considering they were leading. So let's just have a listen to see what's happening now in race number 2, where that lead has come down around 150, 60 meters.
He's tacked. Normal boat's good.
I think we'll go 1 and left.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, way better pressure left.
He's behind he's on our line at about 5. You wanted to hit him?
Nathan, they keep,
I think
you still
we'll
haven't
go
adjusted out there, big boy. They still like the left too, just like you.
I'm glad they're seeing what I'm seeing. It's pretty obvious from up here. If I could get a radio to them, I'd be telling it the same thing. Take the left turn at the top, bear away, and just send it downwind. It's 5 knots windier on one side and the other at the moment.
Stand by, guys. 3, 2, 1. More down. Put pressure on this.
My runner. And my trav.
The trav.
Yep, mine.
Crossing. My trav.
You make it or not?
Main up, ragazzi.
Make it or not, they're talking about the ley line into this gate. They're trying to, obviously, Shirley, they're trying to minimize maneuvers right now, because on these race courses, Stephen, when you're going wall to wall, right, Shirley, you're going wall to wall, it's really just settle as much as you can. This is a boat speed contest. That's what we're looking at right now, much more so than a lot of the racing we've seen that's been very shifty with the breeze coming off the land.
And for people watching at home, the best way to figure out the boat speed is look down and you see the knot rate. And obviously the Italians coming in now to the top gate to complete the halfway mark, shall we say, of this second race. Race number 2 of the Prada Cup Finals. They took race 1 by 1 minute and 52 seconds. They are in the lead in race number 2, and they're heading downwind on leg number 4 of 6. But you know, this is the crazy thing about these boats. You just don't know. As we see INEOS Team UK, they are firing into the top gate as well.
Your wheel.
The advantage has increased just slightly to Luna Rossa. It's now 19 seconds. On board Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. The mood must be, it sounds confident.
There's no doubt, is there, that the Italians have a click of extra pace. And if you just have that tiny bit of extra pace, you can go exactly where you want. And they've completely dominated what we all think is the good side of the track.
More pressure for us at the moment.
Yes, yeah.
When you talk about getting better in increments, that's what we're seeing today. Little bits, slowly but surely, taking you towards the finish line.
Well, we talk now about marginal gains, but I mean, I think we're seeing a step up by the Italian outfit. I mean, this is impressive. We did not expect it to be so clean and so smooth and so much faster.
We have talked a lot on land about how confident the Italians have been, and they have been quite vocal.
Well, there's a fine line between confident and cocky, and I would actually shift them in kind of that cocky direction. You know, they have. That comment that Francesco had about there's nothing I like about the British boat. You know, that is fighting words, man. So you better be ready to back it up, right? They're backing it up.
They're backing it up.
There's no question. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would have gone there, Cheryl, with the. That's pretty. They were. They hung it out there pretty good.
Strong speeds downwind by both these boats. Look at that, 44 knots and counting. And the lead by Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli sitting around the 280 mark. They haven't been behind all day.
Ready?
We talked when we started about the different jib choice. I mean, Kenny, do you think that's having a play here?
Yeah, so it's really a difference. It's not. I don't know if it's a huge size difference. It looks a lot different. This is a lower aspect. That's kind of a fathead jib. Looks different, but I'm not sure it's a huge size difference.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli about to complete leg 4 of 6. Bottom gate heading upwind for the last time.
Windy enough now, Stephen, that they're going around that leeward gate with both boards in to avoid that sideways skid. So the breeze is still on, Nathan, and it doesn't look like it's going to let up. This is like the perfect breeze for these guys, isn't it?
Okay. Yep. Right on.
Yeah, Ken, the breeze is just beautiful out here now, and you're spot on there. The last time Luna Rossa around the bottom mark, they did a single board only, and that was that leeway skid, that big slow arc where I think they lost quite a few meters. It's definitely windy enough now for 2 boards down around these bottom marks. It gives the boats that extra grip, and I haven't really understood it until I got in the helicopter, and now I can see from above how much grip they get with that windward foil and how the boat shoots upwind out of the bottom mark as opposed to sliding sideways. And you can see why all the teams are doing it.
And coming up.
I think what Nathan just said is he's happy to be out there because when he's in the next America's Cup sailing one of these boats, he's already doing his homework for the next Cup.
Well, what I'm finding interesting,
that's what I read out of
how he's feeling the breeze in a helicopter about 700 meters above the water.
It's visual. We don't make it up, believe it or not. We can actually see the dark spots from time to time. We're not always right, but
I said feeling, not saying.
Okay.
Tags, we've got 25 back to boundaries right now.
Yeah.
Giles Scott is kind of limited on a day like today, isn't he? He's kind of negated, Shirley, because it's just kind of a boat speed contest and not that shifty condition.
We've seen him really flourish, haven't we? When he's been on the stadium course, but out here it's more straightforward. It's much more about pace, picking the right side,
Okay, he follows.
covering the opposition.
Got an intersection 15 away.
Yep.
He's marginal 1 and in for that right turn. We're 2 and in left in 10 seconds. Okay, building
You
in
can really
5.
see it right there, the
Breeze is
jib,
on
that
me.
triangular jib on the black boat on INEOS, and then much more of a, well, I wouldn't call it a rectangle,
Okay,
but certainly a fathead jib on the other boat.
Ready. 2.
I bet they all would wish they had, you know, Anderson, going out to you on the water, you know more about these boats than any of us do. I bet they both wish they had smaller jibs up at this stage, wouldn't they?
Yeah, actually, when I saw INEOS put that jib up, I was expecting that to go up much shorter on the hoist and expecting them to have almost a J3. When we were looking at this build coming, you'd almost be borderline J3 in these boats.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli sitting around 33 knots, but a lead of 260 meters, as you see it on our screen with our virtual eye. Just makes understanding this match racing, which it is match racing, so much better. We didn't expect match racing. We were talking about this a lot earlier, but this is quite simply cool.
Yeah, match racing. It's real racing. The upwind starts has clearly kind of changed the game back in a very interesting direction, at least for us diehard sailors. We see the intricacies or the details, and yeah, it makes it more fun. There's no question about that.
It's just happening, Stephen, at 10 times the speed
Yeah, right.
that we're used to seeing. But yeah, it's all the same, and it's great to hear the dialogue from the boats. It's exactly the same conversation that you would have on any match racing boat.
This is where you need to shout out when you're on the standing on the helm bar. Feel the need for speed. Heading towards the top gate on the stadium course for the final time in race number 2. Much heavier winds for both these boats. It was a light air race, the first one, won by that beautiful boat there in Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. Here they go, Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. They will head into the top gate for the final time. And they are simply honking that boat. They are going.
Here we go, boys.
One foil this time. It was 2 at the bottom gate, single foil this time, and they're on their way home. What a sight.
Good rounding, boys.
That's a relief rounding, right? That was Jimmy Spithill saying that was our last chance to really kind of have a major here. Breeze is up, no question. That he was kind of relieved to get around that thing.
2, 1.
INEOS Team UK get around the top gate for the final time. What have they got? What have they got in their kit bag going home?
Hi, sir. Okay, take any time here, Ben.
Okay, let's set up for a drive, guys.
Crossing. My pitch. Ready.
2, 1, all down. Down it.
Deep on exit. 1 mil. 4.
Nice there. High pitch. Okay, little link.
What so often looks so smooth. It's still violent on board, isn't it? All the grinding, all the motion, all the maneuvers, all the systems. It's still what looks so gorgeous and eloquent from our vantage point here is literally violent on board.
You know, we didn't know what the performance gains would have been from both teams, and the teams didn't know what the performance gains were either. And I think the interesting thing about this series is actually it could go on a long time. So we will see gains and changes as this series progresses.
I wonder, Shirley, staying on that theme just for a short moment, whether the time in the shed for INEOS, it could be any team, whether you can get to a point where you're not realizing you're detuning the boat.
Well, I mean, maybe that's a question for Anderson, but, you know, I think you have a lot of data to check it on. And now the gains are much smaller.
The lead has lengthened for Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. It is quite choppy out there, isn't it? It is a bit stronger.
I think these guys are going to be kind of surprised because
even on exit.
I always say, would you switch boats today? You get in a race, in a match race like this, right? Would you change boats? If I were on INEOS right now, I'd have to say, yeah, I think I would, right?
Okay. Speed's coming.
Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. This is the final stage of race number 2 of the Prada Cup finals in 2021. They got it in race number 1 by 1 minute and 52 seconds, and I don't think anyone prior to this race series starting would have picked that Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli would take a 2-0 lead in the Prada Cup final series, but that is what they have done. Luna Rossa 2-0. A whack across the chops for INEOS Team UK. But we are very early in the piece. Remember, it's the 1st to 7th that goes on and faces Emirates Team New Zealand. We're 2 races down. Still a long way to go as INEOS Team UK. They'll be feeling this like a punch to the guts. Don't worry about that. But remember, it's early. They've crossed the line. 26 seconds the margin. But it's Luna Rossa victorious. Double victory, double delight for the Italian syndicate.
Okay. All right, guys. Good effort. Wasn't going to happen today. Just got to keep pushing.
I think we should let Shirley ask all the questions to Ben this time.
Well, you just listened to that comment from Ben Ainslie coming off the water. It wasn't enough today.
Not going to be happy. Not going to be happy. And surprised, don't you think? I think surprised.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, certainly in that second race, quite a lot more wind pressure. They were very comfortable in that the last time we saw them race. Yeah, what are you thinking now? How do you answer that?
Yeah. The other boat's not slow, I'll tell you that. You got to pull something out here. There's going to be a big old debrief in the British camp tonight, I can tell you.
Because the talk has always been about INEOS Team UK being a strong boat, a fast boat, and stronger winds. It was stronger winds and didn't see it, right?
I think that's slightly unfair because early on in the pre-Christmas, yes, they were kind of a one-trick pony. They had to have wind because they couldn't get up in light air. I think they evened out their performance top to bottom. We saw that in the round robin series. There's no question that they became a better all-around boat.
Confirmation, race 2, the first 2 races of the Prada Cup final series in 2021, and it's a double for Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. It was 1 minute and 50 seconds in race number 1, 26 seconds in race number 2, but they get the job done.